I want to talk about stereotypes today. Now, on the internet, you will find a lot of information about masculine and feminine energy and the impact that that has on relationships, attraction, dating. And there's some great information out there, and it's something I teach as a dating relationship coach because the reality is that opposite energies will always attract. So, a very feminine guy will attract a very masculine man, and a very masculine woman will often attract a very feminine guy. So, whatever energy people are putting out is the results that they're getting. Now, I'm going to talk a lot more about that as we go on in this chat, but I want to start with stereotypes. And I was asked a series of questions by a journalist that made me think about stereotypes. Are they true? Do they impact our relationship, etc.? And I put the questions to my Facebook page, and I also went out and talked to a number of people, as well as drive my partner nuts talking about this particular issue, because it really made me deeply examine what my opinions are and what impact those opinions have had in my relationships. So I kind of had a look at my own romantic relationships, and I kind of looked at what my parents were like, and I looked at even my grandparents to see what impact that had. Now, the question the journalists asked me were, is it common nowadays for women to earn more than men? How does that impact dating and relationships? And does it create tension? And if it does, how do you deal with it? So, my question to the Facebook group and to the people I chatted with is, how do you feel about it? You know, does it matter? Does it not? Does it stop you going out with people that earn more? What's your honest opinion? And I was really shocked by what people said and told me. It was such a wide response of different responses, and it tended to go 50-50. You know, there were a lot of guys that go, why are you even talking about this? Is this even a problem? Does it really matter? Who cares? A lot of men said they were quite supportive of the women in their lives who were successful. They, literally cheered them on and were really proud of them. And they said, look, it helps us get our common goals together. And I know that my worth is based on so much more than how much money I bring into the relationship, that there's so much other types of support. There were women that said they were in relationships with great guys, that it didn't impact them one bit. And yeah, so 50%, no issue. The other 50%, there were quite a number of issues. So there were a number of women who had dated guys and they earned more, and the guys were controlling. They couldn't really deal with it, so it came out and affected their relationship quite heavily and caused the relationship to break up. And one woman in particular said she would have been quite happy being the bread earner if the guy had taken over the stuff that traditionally women were expected to do if they, were home or whatever. But she said guys didn't tend to do that. They either were lazy, so they wouldn't do anything around the house and would just let her do everything. So absolutely said that it didn't work. A lot of people were saying that when the guy didn't feel good about himself, he might be controlling or mean in the relationship, and it would come out in other bad behaviors, right? The guys that were secure didn't seem to come out in those behaviors, is what people told me. So I'm just going on what people said. There were quite a number of guys too that said they would feel intimidated if the woman earned more money. To which I asked them, why would they feel intimidated if the woman earned more money? And they said that they would feel emasculated. And I'm like, what does that even mean? What does emasculated feel? Feel less of a man. Because for them, their identity was of what a man should be was based on being the provider, earning a lot of money. The stereotype that was quite alive and well 50 years ago. Now, basically, 50 years ago, people had no confusion. Women had to give up their work when they got married and they had to stay home and look after the kids. So the guy was the provider. The woman had to stay home. Nowadays, that's all changed. And also made me think, if a guy felt emasculated or intimidated, does that mean that women are expected to dumb themselves down, to be less than what they're capable with? That doesn't sit right for me at all. And I think for a number of women that doesn't. We're brought up in an age where we're told that we can go and do and be what we want, and to feel like that would make guys feel less of a man is something that's hard for us to get our heads around. But a lot of it comes from, if you're brought up with that mindset, sometimes unconsciously you don't even realize the beliefs and the thoughts that you that have those stereotypes in play, which is really quite interesting. Now, on both sides, I had a number of people that said when they were earning more, they were reluctant to tell people because they'd attract lazy people or gold diggers. Now, that was equal for men and women. Both felt that a guy didn't want to date someone where it was just for his money, and nor did the woman. That doesn't feel good. I find too that depends on the age. So people in their 20s is quite a different scenario when you're building your life, when you're building your finances, when you're building, your assets, etc. But for those people that have gone through a divorce later in life, what they did tell me, it was more important for them to meet someone who had an equal amount of money, because they'd lost their money once or half of their money. They didn't want to do it again. The stakes were higher, especially when they're getting to the time where they're going to retire, etc. So that was an issue. They did say that they'd want someone who earned equal, and a lot of guys would be quite happy with the girl earning a decent amount of money. A lot of people didn't want to sponge off anyone, didn't want that to be the reality. Now, I did have a couple of guys tell me that they would have a very unpopular opinion, and I'm going to read one of them. I'll read it because it's quite long. Yes, it matters if the woman earns more money than the man. To earn more money or to advance your career, you have to adopt inherently masculine traits, such as being stoic, non-agreeable, combative, be able to face and pass through adversity, frequently test yourself mentally and physically, be a determined leader. In general, these are traits women look for in men, but men don't look for in women. The exception is the man that looks for these traits when he possibly doesn't have them themselves. Living from this firsthand, those relationships don't last. A man earns more money so a woman can be dependent on him. A woman earns more so she can be independent of men. A high-earning man will have no issue being in a relationship with a woman earning less than him, but a high-earning woman will always want someone who is either close to her or earns more. It seems to be widely politically incorrect to say, but men typically don't want a woman with masculine traits. She will want a superior, not just in earning capacity, and if she earns more, it's just a matter of time before the woman loses respect for you and moves on. Really interesting comments here, which I can see where the guy's coming from, but there's some that are absolutely not true. I know plenty of women who've been successful in careers without displaying those inherently masculine traits. I know even in my own work history, I've worked in jobs where I'm gone into a job that is higher paid to start with, but I've been successful from the feminine qualities of being creative, building strong connections, and being able to empathize and build strong relationships with others. There's plenty of female leaders that you can look around that have done the same thing. So it is an assumption to say that someone is successful just because of that, right? Also, a man earns more money so a woman can be dependent on him. I think a lot of men are going to earn money because they have the capability to. They've got dreams and desires. It's not looking for a woman to be dependent. In fact, I come across plenty of men that want a woman to be equally ambitious and have some drive, and they go smash common goals together. A woman earns to be independent of a man. Well, that's not always true. Women earn because they can. If we've been trained, if we learn skills, it's reasonable to get paid fairly for them. the intent is not to be independent of men. In fact, I think relationships are not about dependency, it's about interdependence. And thinking that the only thing that we want from one another is money is very short sighted. You know, over the years of being with someone, the things that I appreciate my partner for the most is, having my back, supporting me, being there at my parents' funeral, um, being in my corner when things are tough. That emotional support that you have in a relationship, having my best friend to talk to, are the things that I'm looking for in a relationship. Both men and women look for that. Yes, what you earn creates the lifestyle that you want. But I came back from India this year, and plenty of people who weren't earning very much money were a lot happier than a lot of the people who are, right? So sometimes making these assumptions or thinking someone has to dumb themselves down to make someone else feels better seems really outdated to me. And like I said, getting your identity and your value and sense of worth from your occupation is a very slippery and dangerous slope. You become unemployed, life becomes hard at times. Who you are is so much more than what you earn, and your value is based on so much more than that. And women do look for a masculine man. And I'm going to talk about what masculine and feminine traits are now quickly. And I'm going to read them out because then I don't miss any. So masculine energy is independent, analytical, and it represents the left brain. Masculine energy is all about action, giving, decision-making, assertiveness, problem-solving. Masculine energy is fueled by the desire to dominate, take control, or conquer. Motivated by achievement, our masculine side likes to compete and control. Thinking logically in a linear way, there is success in victory. Masculine energy is doing. When it's used properly, it's practical and visionary. When it's misused, it can end in ego, anger, resentment, inner conflict, and disconnects minds from the body, right? Feminine energy, in contrast, is intelligent and loving energy that contains the quality of intuition, compassion, emotion, empathy, and truth. Feminine energy is more about coming from the heart, feeling, receiving, vulnerability, and openness. It is about being in the moment instead of doing. The feminine appreciates the process as much as the outcome, values personal connection, is creative, and insists on the qualities of beauty and joy in life. The feminine will always choose cooperation and kindness over competition and aggressiveness. Feminine energy receives. When you're in your feminine energy, you can be wild and free. Now, those energies are quite opposed. And what I want to say is everyone has a mix of both of those energies in their lives. What's really important in dating and relationships is knowing that you can switch that energy. So for a woman in her job, she needs to use the masculine side. She needs to take action, make decisions, problem solve, right? And she can use the feminine side coming from the heart, creating relationships, empathy, kindness, all of those wonderful things. But you can shift. So when it comes to dating, what I recommend people do is leave the work side there. And one thing, the guy was correct, that guys do not want to date a woman with some of these harsh qualities. And women often go into the whole dating thing in their masculine side. They want to achieve the dates, they want to, make this work, they want to take action. Often they want to control the situation, right? And it pushes the guy away. And the thing about women coming too much from their masculine energy, so if you're operating 100% from your masculine energy, it produces too much testosterone for a woman and it ends up exhausting you. On the flip side, men coming too much from their feminine side isn't overly attractive to women. So it's about this perfect blend when you go into situations and moving freely from one to the other. But I don't think it comes down to the earning capacity. and really examining some of those stereotypes and what we're looking to get from relationships. And a book I highly recommend that talks about this. John Gray wrote Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago. Great book, still valid, because as far as men and women's thinking, they're equal, but they think completely different. We might as well be from different countries with some of the different ways we think. And Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus help people navigate that. Now, he's written beyond Mars and Venus because what he acknowledges is, 30, 40 years ago, there were much more traditional roles in play than there are now. What people are now wanting a relationship has evolved. Women want that emotional support. They want more from a guy than just his earning capacity. And a guy still wants that kindness, empathy. People want a role mate where we share our lives together. We share the household tasks, we share the kids, we help and support each other through life with our masculine and feminine, helping achieve goals and being each other's support is a really wonderful thing. So, looking at my personal growing up, I've earned more than my partner. My parents have earned different amounts. My grandmother worked her whole life because she was a widow from the war. They had, the earning capacity wasn't the thing that makes or breaks any of those relationships. Sometimes it's your thoughts that you have around it. And I know that I looked at my parents' marriage when it was particularly hard, is my mum supported my dad when he was out of work. That was really tough because he felt like he couldn't get work, so he felt like he wasn't good enough. And she felt like she had to carry it all. There will be times in relationships where some of those things happen. Having communication, being able to support each other through the hard times, and knowing that your identity is not always tied into what you do for work, right? So yeah, I think stereotypes are very, very interesting. And I want you to just take some time to think about what you really think about some of this stuff. And for any men out there, you're so much more than your earning capacity, and a woman earning more shouldn't take away your masculinity, because a woman will still want your leadership, your decisiveness, all of those masculine qualities she still wants from you. It goes way beyond those masculine, way beyond, the man being just the provider, right? And like I said, I highly recommend everyone read this book. And I'd love to know your thoughts after you've read it. Now, I really enjoyed chatting to you. I probably only touched the iceberg and tip of the iceberg. And I'm probably, talking about some of these things that we haven't thought about as we've evolved. My name's Debbie Rivers. I'm a relationship coach. And thanks for listening. And bye for now.